All right, so now we're going to talk about allergens, and you have a paper that looks like this. So you can pull that up so you can follow along with what we're talking about. And this one's pretty short, so we can breeze through it pretty quickly. All right, so when a person has an allergic reaction, it's because their body has mistakenly identified a protein or another ingredient in a dish as a hazard to their body. And so their body responds by having an allergic reaction. And so we can help protect customers and people who are eating in our food establishments by making sure that we're aware of a few things. So the first thing that you'll see on your paper are the symptoms. So we're going to cover symptoms, common food allergies, which foods are people most commonly allergic to. And we're also going to talk about how to keep people safe in front of house places, and also how to keep people safe with what's going on in our kitchens. So let's start at the very beginning with symptoms. So a person who has allergies is their own advocate. We obviously don't know who has allergies as they walk in the door unless they tell us. And so what we can do is, if we observe some bizarre behaviors, things that seem out of the ordinary, we could be knowledgeable about what could possibly be an allergic reaction and respond appropriately. So you'll notice that there are a few things on your paper to watch out for. And most of these symptoms are happening in the you'll notice that some of the symptoms are indicated on facial features and on skin. You'll also notice that it could be affecting the digestive system, which makes sense because we're digesting things, and it can also be affecting our respiratory systems, because our respiratory system and digestive system are so closely connected to each other. Now, I want to be careful to help you understand that we are not talking about environmental allergens, such as when someone is allergic to grass or dust and things that are in their environment. We're talking about allergens because of something that they digested. So you can look through that list as I'm talking about it, but you'll notice nausea, wheezing, hives, swelling, especially of the face, eyes, hands, and feet, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, and another one you can add to that list that is not on there but should be is an itchy throat. So these symptoms can at first be really mild, and they can become more severe the longer that they are occurring, or they can start out immediately severe. They can also happen immediately, or it can be something that it takes several hours before they actually have a reaction to it. Now, allergens can be, people can have allergic reactions that are really mild, or they can also become extremely dangerous, even life-threatening, especially if someone becomes anaphylaxic. So that is when someone's throat becomes so constricted because of swelling that they can't breathe, and they can die. So this is serious, and we should be aware of these things. Okay, now people can be allergic to pretty much anything that they digest. I've heard everything from strawberries and onions, and the list goes on and on. But you'll notice in the list that is on your paper that there are 8 common allergens, and you will be probably you'll have some question on your test that specifies one of these allergens. So you want to be aware of them. And I'm not going to read through the list, but I want to point out a few things. You'll notice on the list that fish and shellfish are 2 separate categories. So someone could be allergic to tuna, but not necessarily to shrimp, or vice versa. Also, peanuts and tree nuts are 2 separate categories as well. And someone may be allergic to both peanuts and tree nuts, or they may be allergic to just one or the other. But 8 of those, and you should have a working knowledge of them. And so what you could do if you are a visual learner is pretend that you have a dinner set out before you, and each of those items is presented in your dinner, and that will help you to visually remember what items are the 8 most common food allergies. Okay, so what can the serving staff do to help prevent allergic reactions? Well, we can label foods, especially if we have a buffet. Now, you'll notice the next one is in italics, and that's because it's an important one. And you'll also know that when you hear the word best or worst, most or least, there are probably indications that there's going to be a question about it on the test. So go ahead and underline. The best way to prevent allergic reactions is to always have someone on staff present who can answer questions about menu items. And now, excuse me, you'll know that sometimes this is really difficult because you may have had someone who prepared the dish earlier. They're not there that day. You're not sure how they made it. You may have a chef who has a secret recipe and is hesitant to share their secret recipe. So you have to just work within the system that you have to make sure that you can answer questions. If you are training someone, because this is a manager's course, then you would want to train them about how to appropriately answer a question. So for example, a customer indicates that they are allergic to onions and they want to order the potato salad. And they ask if there were onions in the potato salad. Now, if you don't know the answer to that, you can tell them you don't know, but you'll go ask someone in the kitchen. And let's say you go in the kitchen and there's no one to answer the question still. You can go back to that customer and tell them, you know, we're really not sure. The person who made this isn't in the building today, but I could suggest our scalloped potatoes. And so what you're doing is you're training your staff to handle those difficult situations. And obviously, the customer is responsible for their own health. And so now that they have indicated their allergy and you've done the best that you can or trained your staff to do the best that you can to find the answers, it's ultimately up to them what decision they make about what they're going to put in their bodies. Okay, we should also train our front of house staff on how to describe how a dish is made. For example, training them with vocabulary such as what is a roux, and would a roux be something of concern for someone who has an allergy to wheat? And it could be, yes. So you would want to give them the vocabulary to know how to interact with customers about the menu. And that kind of goes along with identifying ingredients, clearly marking orders. And so different restaurants or food establishments have different systems for marking orders for customers. If you have a pen and paper system or if you have some sort of electronic devices, finding a way to make sure that those allergens are indicated in writing or digital as well. And then we also want to make sure that our food that is for someone with an allergy is presented to them or delivered to them separately than the other food. And that kind of flows right into our next section, the last one. So kitchen staff preventing allergic reactions. The reason that we are presenting food, delivering it separately, is because of a concern for cross contact. And you all are familiar with cross-contamination. So you need to make sure that you are taking a mental note that these are two different things, and there will be questions on your test about both of them. And so a cross contact is when an allergen comes in contact with a non-allergen. And so some examples of where that could happen are in your fryers. So if you fry chicken fingers in the same oil that you also fry your fried shrimp, that would be an example of cross contact. Now, it is not necessarily wrong or illegal for you to do that, but a lot of places choose not to for various reasons. One of them being because of the concern for cross contact, and also because when you're dealing with seafood, it gives off a seafood flavor for all of the other food that is in that oil as well. Another example of cross contact would be, let's say that your baker is making some peanut butter cookies, and so they put some parchment paper on their trays, on their sheet pans, and they put peanut butter cookie, the dough onto those, and then they cook it, they remove them, and then they remove the parchment paper. Now, it's pretty common practice to just put some clean parchment paper and do another round of cookies. So let's say now they're making chocolate chip, but the residue from the peanut butter cookies is now in contact with the chocolate chip cookies, which is not, again, not wrong, but it is something to make people aware of. So if someone has a peanut allergy, they would need to know that peanuts are used in that kitchen. And if someone has a peanut allergy, they are aware that they need to ask those questions. You need to be aware of if someone has an allergic reaction, what that could look like. Okay, so you'll finish just looking at that list of kitchen staff prevention. And you'll notice washing, rinsing, sanitizing. Those are all really important for avoiding allergens. And then also labeling foods and separate fryers is another option. All right, so be sure that you look this over. This is a fairly short section, but don't be fooled by it being so short. There will be questions about allergens on your test.